Good evening and welcome to the Bishop One Church of England School. I'm Mr Aldridge, Head Teacher, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this evening to our Year 8 Parents Information Evening. It's also been my pleasure, last week, to welcome your child back to our school. They came back full of confidence and they've adapted really well to the new systems and routines that we have put in place. It's been exciting to see their enthusiasm for school, and we've really missed having your children on the school site. They've certainly grown as people, as well as height, in the last 6 months. This week, the formal timetable and routines have begun, and after just 2 days, it seems like we've always operated in this way. There may have been huge national concerns regarding the return to school, but you should be very proud of the way that your child has adapted and reacted to the systems that we've put in place here at Bishop Wand. Attendance across the year group has been excellent, as has their attitude to learning. It's now our job, together in partnership, to ensure that we can keep this enthusiasm and learning going as we begin to discover academically where your child is now and how we keep moving them forward. I don't like the word catch up, as I know how hard and diligently our students worked while away from school, but we'll begin to look at their learning gaps in the weeks ahead and inform you of our plans as they develop and as appropriate for your child. In school this week, we're focusing on our Bible verse from Thessalonians: encourage one another and so build each other up. And while we normally use this in times of adversity to encourage one another, it should also be used to celebrate and share the positivity. Now, no one in our lifetime has experienced a pandemic on the scale that your child has during the major time of their education, and it's going to live very long in the memory. They've done exceptionally well, and there is so much to encourage them with. Please do encourage them every day, because just turning up to school and working through the lessons is incredible. As we move forward in this new online way of communication, we're looking to maximise the progress your child is making, but also to work together with you as parents. It's a different form of communication, and we will be learning as we go along, but we want it to be as effective as possible. Tonight, Mr Dixon and Miss Riley will be leading you through the evening. They'll be outlining what we've done so far this year and what we'll be doing in the weeks ahead. There'll be opportunities at the end for questions to ensure that we're all on the same page and understand how we can work together throughout the course of this academic year to realise the God-given potential for every child at Bishop Wand. Thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. I hope you enjoy this evening.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening for the Year 8 Parents Information Evening. We are live, but we will start with school prayer. Loving God, whose Son Jesus Christ is a companion and friend, on our journey to be more like him, grant us patience to grow, endurance in difficulty, and courage to walk the way of compassion and peace. Amen. I'm going to hand over to Miss Riley just in a moment. We are available for questions, and I know a few questions have been logged, so all this deck will be sent out to you after the end of the event. If you'd like to ask a question during the event, there is a question mark on the top right-hand corner of your of this presentation where you can type in a question as we go along. So please put those questions into us, and we'll try and answer them at the end of this presentation. I'll pass over to Miss Riley, who will lead the rest of our evening.
Thank you, Mr Dixon. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. Year 8 have made a fantastic start to our term here at Bishop Wand, and I just wanted to say thank you very much for all your patience and support at home too. Communication is really important now that we are back at school with our tutor. We've got a fantastic tutor team who I'm sure have been in touch with you already. You will have their email address, so you know who you are communicating with. So please do get in touch with them. Mr Aldridge also is sending out a weekly briefing which has got some really important messages on it, so I would really advise you to reference those every week when they are sent out. Attendance and punctuality remains very important. Obviously, if you feel that your child has got COVID-related symptoms, please do not send them to school. If, however, they're just slightly under the weather, please do send them in. We will take great care of them. We will contact you and send them home if we think that that is necessary. Uniform and appearance, we have really high expectations of uniform and appearance, so please, 2 things that I'd like to draw your attention to, and that is wearing skirts to the knee and no chewing gum, please. Weekly routines stay predominantly the same this year for Year 8. We've got 2 assemblies on a Monday and a Thursday. Our numeracy and literacy programme still stays the same, as does our PSHE programme. And we are collective worshipping together on a Wednesday morning. Our Pure Check has a slightly more extensive range of equipment that we are requiring students to bring into school, but you can find that full list on our website or on page 16 of the planner. The planner has had a makeover this year, so if you haven't already had a flick through your child's planner, please do. It's got some new things at the front and a slightly different layout. The planner used to be our preferred method of communication between parent and staff, but this year we are asking parents to email either the tutor or the class teacher with any questions or queries that you might have, rather than using the planner. Dates for the diary, we've got some dates for the diary coming up. Any dates before half term have been confirmed. Anything after half term we are still yet to confirm, apart from our end of term date, which still remains on the 18th of December and will be an early closure. Homework at Bishop Wand. We are still setting our homework on what used to be called Show My Homework, but you will probably recognise it now as Satchel 1. Students are still required to be completing pieces of homework for about 30 minutes per piece per evening, and now that you are all really experienced deliverers of home learning, we would still ask for your support with that, so thank you very much. Mr Dixon is going to talk us through Insights.
Hopefully you still all have access to your Insights accounts. This is where you get your child's timetables, so you'll be able to access all those timetables. You'll also be able to see all those merits of students getting, the student reports which are issued 3 times a year, and of course any detentions that might be issued. We hope you don't send any detentions, but this is where they'll be notified, not in the planner which was previously done. This would be in the through Insight. So please, if you haven't logged on to your Insight account, now is the time to do that. That's a barcode you'll need if you're using the app version, and I'll send this these slides around so you can scan that through your mobile phone, so that'll give you access to the Bishop Wand version of Insight. Assessments and reports remain the same as last year. Hopefully you're very familiar with that now. You'll have received 3 reports throughout this year, and again they'll be colour coded red, amber and green. So please look out for those reports. You'll be informed when they're coming through, but they'll be available on Insight, so you can track your child's progress through those reports. That's where the conversations with your tutors may begin about that, but certainly with the class teachers, particularly about how your child or son or daughter might be progressing, and if you have any concerns, please speak to your classroom teacher throughout the year about their progress. Behaviour learning, as Ms Riley and Mr Aldridge already said, absolutely brilliant. Really, really impressed how Year 8s have come back, especially after the time they've had home and settling back into Bishop Wand. They've just done an amazing job. It has been very different for them coming back to the school environment, and they've adapted really, really well. This year is all about supporting each other and building each other up, supporting each other in that learning, and where those challenges are, looking to support each other. Some of them had a wonderful lockdown period where they've worked really well at home. Other students may not have had such a successful time and they've struggled with that learning. And we're really encouraging each other to work with each other and build each other up, so that when those challenges come, they support each other and go, right, I can help you with that. And as a result of that, everyone is much more successful. So we go back to the basics, being in the right place, being in the right time, doing the right thing, following instructions first time. And if those are issues within the classrooms, we're really encouraging the students to follow the instructions first time, and after the lesson, addressing with the teacher if they're not sure about something, but not raising an issue within the classroom. And to be honest, Year 8's been absolutely brilliant at addressing that to date, and long may that carry on. We just refer you again just to plagiarism. We raised this last year with you. It is something we keep pushing through with the school, certainly with the home learning, where they're getting information from the home learning. They make sure they don't just copy and paste and claim it for their own work. They do need reference material if they've got it from the internet, and pointers where they've received that information, and make sure that they rewrite work, preferably rewrite work in their own words otherwise. So plagiarism is still part of the thing we are reminding our students to work through. And if you support with us, that will help them when they get to their GCSEs. Lastly, a message for PE.
Yes, one last message for me, and that is that if your child is injured, they're still required to take part in some shape or form in their PE lessons. And so the PE department have asked me to remind you that they will still need their PE kit with them, and they will still be required to get changed.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hopefully that's answered a few of your questions about the year ahead. We have a few questions being asked about in advance to this evening. One was about the Year 7 books. What do you do with the Year 7 books? Well, of course, they're your books now, but they could well be a reference for the next couple of years as your child works through Key Stage 3. And obviously their Key Stage 3 assessments, Year 8 and Year 9, will be building on that learning. So keep what you think is appropriate. They are your books. They won't be referred back to in the class necessarily, but your child might think it's appropriate. They need to refer back to that information over the next year and so, because there are topics certainly in some subjects where they build on. So I do recommend you look to what's worth keeping and store that information. Form rooms and equipment and books. We are aware that students are possibly carrying more equipment than they previously were, and we're also aware that of course they don't have the access to the lockers. It is an unusual situation and appreciate that at the moment. It is challenging for them, but they might be carrying more equipment, but equally they're largely based in one room where they can leave that equipment largely for the whole day. They don't need to take it out every lesson, and if they know they're in the same classroom after lunch or after break, they can leave that equipment there and knowing it's safe in there. So please work with us and work with your child with that. It's unusual circumstances, but that's best we can manage at the moment, and hopefully they will find places to leave that there. Some books are being left in the classes by the teachers as well, and if the child is struggling to take everything home, speak to their classroom teacher about leaving their learning books in the classroom for the next day. And lastly, that leads us to the last question we had in advance was the lunches. We understand that lunch is quite a short time, but we have moved the catering van down to the AstroTurf or near the AstroTurf, so students can access that, giving them a full 20 minutes to eat their lunch, or and I have 2 20-minute lunch breaks, so they could eat their lunch part of it, the first break or the second break. We do appreciate it's a short period, but we are trying to work on keeping the school open and supporting staff as well. So we do have a bit of a balancing act here to make sure that things are working for both staff and students. And at the moment we're seeing this is probably the best arrangement. We will review, and we do review, and by half term we'll go back to review whether that's working, and we'll take your comments on that later on during the term, and the students' comments as well. I'm just going to hand over to Mr. Griffith to see if there's any other questions.
We do have some questions. So the first one is, within the Year 8 area, is there somewhere they can fill their water bottles because some students aren't clear?
Yes. Again, that was raised with us this week, and of course, 2 really hot days, Monday and Tuesday. We did provide some water butts there. There is water available for the students. We really do encourage you to send your son or daughter in with 1 or maybe 2 water bottles in the really hot weather. It is difficult around the school, and we are trying to keep the students safe. The whole thing is about keeping people safe, particularly the students, and I'm sure you're aware of working through these bubbles and keeping those bubbles. It is making sure, or trying to make sure, that all our children are safe. We have provided water that is available, that is refilled at break and lunchtime, and we'll continue to provide that while this warm weather remains. But the easiest solution is bringing in 1 or 2 water bottles for your child.
We have a couple of questions about practical lessons. So will there be practical lessons and science experiments in design and technology and art and science, etc.?
I could answer those as well, Mr. Riley. In terms of practical lessons, there will be, every student will have other lessons somewhere each cycle, whether it be DT or music or dance. They're certainly out for the PE lessons. At the moment, our science labs are being used for our Year 11 students, although we do hope to have some practical activities within the Year 7 classroom, Year 8 classrooms, so they're available in those classrooms. We are limited at the moment, but we are constantly reviewing what we are allowed to do and what we can manage. We do hope this is not an ongoing situation, and eventually we'll be out of this situation and back into normal classrooms. At the moment, there is a limit to what we can do within that, and we will come back to revisit this curriculum as your child progresses through school. So if there's limited science experience this year, then we'll have to make up that in later years. But at the moment, they will do some science experiments in lessons. They will be going out for some of their DT lessons or music lessons or art lessons, and art coming back into their classroom as well. and when we can adapt it, we will adapt it.
What opportunities will there be to meet either virtually or physically with teachers to check on progress during this year, as we didn't have a parents' evening last year?
Again, very good question. We will review what the parent information evening will look like this year, and we have a few ideas, but I don't want to start advertising them yet because we need to see how we fit in. We will keep you informed and give you lots of notice when those events are and how they will run. We would love to see you face to face, and hopefully later in the year we'll be able to see you face to face. At the moment, we are restricted to doing a lot of things online. So we'll see how the pandemic progresses and what decisions we can make later on in the year, but we will keep you informed and make sure that we have that communication clearly with you.
What are the arrangements if the weather is worse and starts raining over break times and things? What will happen with the students?
Again, we'll have to keep the students in the classrooms. We have a bubble of area for the students, which will be largely their classrooms and corridors around those classrooms. So the students will have instructions of where they need to go. I have my fingers very firmly crossed that we have the fine weather that we've had at the moment. It's been absolutely beautiful outside, and our students have really enjoyed and relished that time out in the AstroTurf at the moment, enjoying that sunshine. So fingers crossed with me, please, that we keep that weather all the way up to October half term.
Are parents still required to sign the planners each week?
That's it, Ms. Running.
Parents are required to sign the planner each week, yes. Please do that. It's a way of you acknowledging that you have looked at the planner, that you can see what home learning has been set, and you know, if there's any other things in there such as detentions, which we're really hoping that nobody gets, but it's just so that we can see and tutors can see that you are acknowledging the use of the planner and what's going on in there. So yes, please.
Will there be a recording of this event available later?
Yes, we hope to be able to publish that as long as it's all gone well. We'll hopefully have that up by the end of the week or certainly at the beginning of next week.
Will the early start time continue? The school run is much better with less traffic in the area.
As it stands, we'll run this early start time for the foreseeable future until, until the foreseeable future. I can't answer any more than that.
Is PE lessons set by ability?
Yes, so in year 8 now they have a boys group, a girls group and a mixed group.
In which year group do students choose their GCSE options?
In year 9, so it's usually around a sort of January time of year 9 that we start to, that whole process begins.
What arrangements are in place for teachers to support children when they can't actually get near to them in the classroom?
Good question in the sense of what arrangements there are. Our students are looking to support each other at the first instance, but if they are struggling with a teacher, then they can talk to that teacher at the end of the lesson, obviously keeping that distance. We need to keep our staff safe. They are the most valuable resource we have in the school, and if we lose staff through getting illness, then that is a big problem. So we are trying to keep that social 2 meters distance. Equally, we're not transferring materials between staff and students, so we are very limited to how much interaction we can have with those students. I would encourage that if a child's struggling within the lesson, to email their teacher or pop a message on Teams or something to communicate with them, or potentially have a conversation socially distanced with their teacher at the end of the lesson about their work. As teachers, we'll be collecting in books over a period, and we'll be keeping them, obviously, marking them and giving them back. We need to allow time to make sure there's no COVID-19 virus on those books. We've asked parents not to cover their books, or students not to cover their books, please, this year, so that paper, the virus only lasts 24 hours. If it's covered with plastic, it's 72 hours. So we really need you not to cover those books. Keep them as paper so that we can mark them and turn them around and get them back to the students quickly. Staff are still looking at those books. They'll still see how the student's progressing, and as a result, be able to give individual feedback where that's possible. Where the student has additional support through LSAs, there is arrangements for that going forward, and that will be communicated through the LSA team.
Are any clubs running, and if so, when will we know about them?
Well, Homework Club it started running, that started on Monday. So year 8, we have got the use of M4 for our Homework Club, and that runs from 2:30 to 3:15, and it's manned by a member of the LSA team. Students don't have access to computers in M4, however, they do have the access to an LSA should they need any help with homework. And apart from Homework Club, there are no additional clubs running at the moment, and we don't foresee any clubs running at least until the October half term, if not longer. But watch out for things like going back to the parent briefing, that weekly parent briefing. That's when clubs will be communicated via that.
And we will look to see running other clubs later on in the term. We will hopefully be able to re-implement some of those clubs, but we do need to see how everything's working at the moment. Get us into a routine, and then we'll, as we say, we'll update you, and as soon as we can get those other clubs running, we will get them running.
Is there additional cleaning in place in the school premises?
Yes. Our site is effectively deep cleaned every single night, and that's why we need to send students home a little bit earlier so we can get that cleaning done on time for the next day. It is quite an extensive program that goes through the school building to make sure that we are clearing everything out of the school building, and obviously everything is cleaned down from those desks. Yes, is the short answer.
What is the school's procedure in the event that there is a confirmed case of COVID-19 within their bubble, for example, in their form group?
We will take the advice from Public Health England, and we have a process in place where, should there be a case, we will take the advice of Public Health England, and they will advise us the next steps.
Will there be music lessons?
There is music lessons, yes. If that's referring to peripatetic lessons of individual music lessons, I don't believe they're happening at the moment. That's going underneath under the guidance from, again, Public Health England, of not being able to play musical instruments or singing choirs and things like that. That is being reviewed, and that will come. We will update our procedures and opportunities to have those lessons later on.
Will there be seating made available in the AstroTurf as other areas have seating for students at break times?
Yes, there will be. We made a decision to put the Year 8s down near the AstroTurf last week when we realised they needed a bit of extra space. We will move those picnic benches down there. That has just not happened yet. Fortunately, the weather's been lovely and the students have been able to sit on the grass, but we'll make sure they have picnic benches should the weather turn.
And that is the end of the questions.
Brilliant. I hope that's answered all your questions. If you do have any further questions after this evening, please do email in to admin@Bishop One, and we'll be able to respond to those questions. Thank you so much for your support. As I say, the students have come back absolutely brilliantly, and I know it's very, very unusual terms and times that we are working through. Your support is invaluable with that, and we have to work together with the constraints that we have, both from the government and Public Health England, on all the decisions we make. We don't take decisions lightly on the restrictions that we have. We are limited to what we are able to provide, but we hope you appreciate we are doing it as much as we possibly can to support you and your child through this time, and we ask that you work with us and give us patience during that time. So thank you again for this evening. Thank you for joining us. Take care and good night.